The biggest realizations I've had is that everything I ever thought that would make me happy hasn't.
You're now in Hollywood. You have businesses, you have all these things.
I think Hollywood for me, it's been a roller coaster of happiness, depression, darkness. When you got a crowd of people clapping, instantly I was like, oh, maybe I am enough. Maybe I do fit in. It's literally, since I was a kid, it was, why am I here? What am I doing here? But at the time, that was definitely my escape. But we've all got that feeling of not being enough. And for me, what shifted it is just, I could sit here and genuinely say from a place of truth that I love my life and I would like to continue living.
Try not to cry.
Cry, bro. Why are you trying not to?
No. Words have power. If there's a word or a phrase that you can tell yourself right now.
A lot of things that I've tried to tell myself, like look in the mirror and tell myself I'm enough. But I think what really hits me is just...
Is there a lesson that you know that life has been trying to teach you that you feel like you keep running away from?
Is exactly what we're talking about. Is just... Because if I can enjoy every moment.
Welcome to another episode of You Versus You. On this week's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking to British actor, producer, and entrepreneur, Oliver Trevena. From starting on The Paradox Effect to co-founding Cali Water with Vanessa Hudgens, he's redefining the Hollywood business model. Today, we speak about success, happiness, and what it truly means to have purpose. Oliver, welcome to You Versus You.
Thanks for having me, brother.
I'm excited to have you here, not only because we've shared a lot of really great times together, which would have been random, but we've been like in Puerto de Marti and Ibiza and all these other places, but because I generally feel there's something special about the energy you carry, and I think that it resonates in everything that you do, not only in friendship, but I can see why you are accomplishing the things that you are. But I want to kick it off there. Why entertainment?
It's a big question. I think it was just put in me from a kid. I got into entertainment when I was 4 years old. My mum, I grew up in a little town south of London on the south coast called Hastings. There's not a lot of entertainment happening there other than pubs, and I'm the youngest of four boys. And my mum says I chose to do it. It's still an argument we have to this day. But I was 4 years old and I ended up doing ballet. And I did that for 12 years. So I did ballet, tap, modern jazz. Got very, accomplished in it. But ballet was the thing that I guess got me out of the small town, took me to London. So entertainment, from then I went into, theater at the same time, acting school, everything else. And I think, it's strange looking back because, as I say, I still don't know how I even saw ballet back then. Like it was the 80s. I grew up, there wasn't Dancing with the Stars and stuff like that, what I mean? And it definitely wasn't cool, That's why I started getting tattoos when I was like 14 years old. I just didn't want to get bullied. I was like, no, I'm tough, really. But that was what, painted that path. It could have gone a different way. I think life is definitely sliding doors in so many moments of our life, but that is what kind of got me into entertainment. And I loved it. I love the rush, the being on stage, seeking that validation. But yeah, that's what got me into it.
What do you think, like, if you can look back and feel back those moments, right, as a kid, like feeling the art of performance, right? Because I think there's something special. Was it something that felt pressured? Was it something that felt like, I feel whole here? What was the feeling of like sitting into performance? What was it about it that continued to draw you in? Even if your mom put you in it, right? Yeah. Even if it was her that...
Of course.
Let you in.
Look, my mom put me in it. I stayed in it for 12 years. I didn't have to, My dad loved football and I used to play a lot of football. I could have easily, switched. To your point there, I think we all have chapters, right? In life for sure. But going back to that chapter, for me, it was a feeling of, I didn't feel enough as a kid. I always felt different. I had three older brothers. From the minute, as young as I can remember, I felt different, At least the performance side for me helped me be someone different, like whether it was a theater show or whether I was on stage, that kid that got dressed up and got on stage, in that moment, I was someone different. Of course, I was still me, but it gave me an escape in a way, And then, like I say, the slippery things that come with that are like, it sounds funny, but it is validation, right? Like when you're standing on the stage and you do well and you got a crowd of people clapping, instantly I was like, oh, maybe I am enough. Maybe I do fit in. And then that's a slippery slope as a kid, because then that's what I'm seeking, not only on stage, but I'm seeking it everywhere. to answer your question, I think it was just, it gave me an outlet. It gave me like an escape of that feeling in my head, my mind, those thoughts that was always like, it's literally since I was a kid, it was, why am I here? What am I doing here? Like I'd look at people and be like, I'm so not like you. And not in a negative way, just like I didn't quite understand me. But when I got on stage or when I did something like that, it was like an escape and I felt me, I guess, even though, you unravel it all and then you're like, that wasn't me either, but at the time that was definitely my escape. And I think that's why I loved it. That's why I became addicted to it, was because it was like, it was a relief of the mind. As soon as I was up there, that was it.
It's really interesting because you touched on so many things that I think, barely gets talked about. I can relate to the fact that I feel like my mind doesn't stop. Like I felt growing up that I wasn't normal, and then we grew up in an era where mental health, or like really understanding the things that we struggle with mentally and how we look at these things, where there were not conversations that people were having. Like, nobody was coming in here and saying, oh, okay, it's your mind. Your mind controls all these things. And my mind for as an 8-year-old, 7-year-old was just running wild, and my imagination and how I looked at the world. But it also, which is really crazy, because when you think back at our careers, I think that like you said, it's been a gift. That's probably the reason we're here, because we can look at a situation and like solve it in a way that other people just don't see it. But with all that superpower, there's this insecurity that comes of like, I'm not good enough. Or like, do I really belong here?
Of course. Well, it's like, a lot of the realizations or work that I'm constantly doing is around patterns, right? Like it's our patterns that got us from 4 to 15 and then 15 to 30 or whatever might have been amazing, but they might not work for this next chapter, and it's understanding that like what was good for me then, and I'm grateful for it, but now I can let that, try to let that part of me go, or try to find balance in it, or try and find a middle ground. I
was watching a scientist speak about your brain development as you're growing up and how it gets influenced. And he was talking about how when you're born until you're about like 8 years old, 9 years old, or maybe a little younger, there's this box that gets created in your life by your parents, right? Because your parents are by default taking their own trauma, their own things, to say, okay, don't do that. Don't do this. Hey, this could be wrong. Here's the religion you have to practice. Here's the things that you have to do. Here's how the world looks here. And so you build this box and your world becomes, that's my truth,
of course,
right? Then as you start meeting some friends and you start realizing, well, they got divorced parents, they're thinking about it in a different way. They're maybe Jewish or Christian or something else. Then it's like a ship of this box gets broken and now starts getting replaced with this idea that there's something different. Then as you kind of grow older and go into high school, society comes in, and now you have an opinion of media being fed to you that says, hey, this is the right thing. Hey, the wealthy and rich and having nice things is how you get self-worth and do all these things. And said, well, once you get to high school, now you have a whole bunch of this part in that box, a small corner of what your parents taught you that you are now trying to erase as you think you're discovering who you are. A huge part of what your friends are telling you. And then you enter the reality of society, because you go to college and it's like, if you're a man, you got to go make money. You got to have this. You got to be married. You got to have kids. You got to have this. You got to have that. And if you're a woman, if you're not having kids, and he said, for men and for women, as they're getting closer to their 40s, they stop by a mirror and they say, who the fuck am I? And he said, most people walk away.
Right.
And the work is to sit in front of that mirror and try to revisit what that is and re-challenge that, right? Because part of all these things that we live, and I heard you speak about this in a couple of the other interviews that you've done, is the programming and the stories we tell our minds, right? Like we tell our minds that we're not good enough, but the reality is we're actually okay. We're more than presently okay. So as you've, with that concept in mind, as you go from, being in theater, being a kid, and we'll go back to that stage in your life. You're now in Hollywood, right? You're now a name in Hollywood. You've done films, you have businesses, you have all these things. How does the Oliver of today feel about the things that he was dealing with as a child?
The Oliver today. I mean, look, it's work, right? I think in a nutshell, the biggest realizations I've had, I mean, I'm, 43, I would say in the last few years, is that everything I ever thought that would make me happy hasn't. That's the simplest way of, I got goosebumps. Like, that's the simplest way of the growth or the work that I'm doing. That's what it is. Because coming to Hollywood, 20 odd, more than 20 years ago, the chase, and I've been fortunate enough to succeed in so many of the areas that I would have dreamed of succeeding in. But that little boy that was on the stage that didn't feel enough, none of that changed that. The car, the house, the girlfriend, the watch, the jewelry, the every single little thing that I've clutched at or tried to get to just free that part of my mind, it never worked. Never worked. So for me, I won't say battle. I think I actually find more peace in it than anything else is doing what I want to do and what makes me feel good. And what I'm finding is normally the most simplest things. It's not don't get me wrong, I still love nice things. And you're still going to see me have nice trips and do nice shit and everything else, but it's not necessarily always that. It's like stopping, pausing, and then being like, what do I want to do in this moment? What do I want to do? And listening to that part of the brain or the heart, I should say, instead of rushing into, oh my God, this is amazing. This is glamorous. This is so cool. I'm going to rush into that, even from a job perspective. It's doing what I want to do, and that doesn't mean that then suddenly like, I don't like nice things, or I don't like to live a nice life, or I don't like to go to nice hotels or on trips or whatever it is. It just means like, I know that I'm doing that because I want to do it, not because I'm doing it because I expect it to then make me feel something. And that removing that expectation of the outcome makes me enjoy it more. And this is something that's like new. Like I'm trying to do this like as we speak, like on a daily basis. Yeah. But that's been the biggest realization. And I think for me, like I've done a lot of, like as I say, work on myself around like patterns and this. And there's been some amazing things in life that's helped me. Like I will say, like the Hoffman Institute, I went to a few years ago, and that was amazing. And various, I get chapters in life where I've tried to really peel back the onion and find out what's going on. Why do I not feel like enough? And I think the more I've tried to peel back the onion, the place I've got to is that just accepting that I am enough, and I haven't got to carry on peeling back the onion. Like that just feeling of being like, oh, I'm actually okay. Yeah. Instead of constantly still trying to be like, why aren't I good? What trauma affected me as a kid? What was it? Was it being beaten up? Was it, whatever it was it parent stuff? Whatever it was that we've all got, right? Some people have it a lot worse. Some people have it, are fortunate enough not to have it as bad, but we've all got that feeling of not being enough. And for me, what shifted it is just accepting that I don't want to keep trying to fix me anymore. Like I'm okay. Everything's okay. Like I've got a dog on my lap right now. I'm sitting talking to a mate. Yeah. I'm in LA. Right now is okay. Yeah. The only time I'm tripping is when I'm thinking about the past or the future. And it's the shit that we all, sorry, my language, it's the stuff that we all read in books all the time. Yeah. And it's so simple. And I think there's a reason it's in so many books. It's because it's so simple and it does work. It's that realization. And then don't get me wrong, I still enjoy the nice things, but am I having expectation that that new car that I want is going to suddenly make Oliver feel enough? Because if I am, it ain't going to work. Don't get the car. If I actually stop and I'm like, do I want to buy this car? Because I want this car and it's for me and I'm going to enjoy driving it. Then buy the car, but none of it is going to really, that's why people are always mind blown when they're like, oh, I met this couple in, Thailand and they were the happiest people ever and they had nothing. Well, it was because How many times do we have to all be shown that none of that is actually going to give you that feeling? You know, that's the chase. So I think Hollywood for me has been it's been a roller coaster of happiness, depression, darkness, brilliance, and the chase. And I'm trying to slow down the chase a little bit now. That's probably where I'm at in life.
Do you remember the moment or the stage or chapter of your life where you realize, oh shoot, all the things I thought were going to make this better are not there? Was it like an event? Was it something that you lived and were like...
Well, the little kid in me, if you went back to Hastings and the little kid in tights with lipstick on standing on the stage and you said you were going to be in a, you know, Hollywood movies, I would have been like, I mean, that's like the biggest dream. And now I'm getting to do that, but I wasn't enjoying the moment of it because while I was on set, I'm constantly thinking, where's the next project? What can I package next? I'm constantly thinking about business stuff. And then the movie's gone. And then everyone's clapping at the wrap party, being like, we're wrapped. I'm like, what just happened? You know? Yeah. So yeah, to answer your question, that it's still, I find that, you know, not everyone, but at least for me, it's been like a rubber band, right? Like I'll have that aha moment. I'll have the realization, and then you're going down this path and then you slip, and it's how quickly you get off that back onto the path, and then you'll have another aha moment. So I don't think for me, it's just been like, boom, that realization. I've had that realization a few times, and I feel like every time, the moment very recently, like a week or so ago, where it just happened again, and it felt like it hit on a core level that shifted me. But I don't know what the future holds. Right now, I feel great, and I feel like change has happened. But the first time I felt it was, I remember exactly where it was. And this sounds so obnoxious. I was at San Vicente Bungalows, a members club, right? And I was meant to be going on this Hoffman Institute course. And basically, I had pushed it probably, I think over the space of 2 years, I'd pushed it 8 times. And they kept emailing saying, you know, you're going to lose your deposit. And I was like, oh, well, please put me on April course. Please put me on. And every time I'd push it, sometimes because I got a job, sometimes just because I was like, I don't need this. I'm crushing life now.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of You Versus You. If these conversations are inspiring you and are bringing value to your life, please make sure to subscribe, join the community, and don't forget to share with anyone who you think needs to hear this. Thank you for supporting the show. Now let's get back to our episode.
And I got an email from the facilitator saying, hey, we're going to have to take you off this waiting list of this course. And I read the email and something in me dropped, like my stomach dropped. And I went into like their little back patio area and I emailed her and said, can you get on a call? And she said, yeah. And I called and I said, I need to come. And it was that moment because I realized everything I was getting, everything I'd got. And I was, you know, crushing life. So I thought, and I was more empty than I've ever felt in my life. Like literally more lost than the kid that had nothing. And so in that moment, that was when I went. And that was when, you know, that whole course is about like patterns and peeling back life and going back to where it all started and letting it all go. And it's amazing. And I'd like to say that it like, you know, fixes everything, but it doesn't, because we're a constant, we're in life every day. And life every day, especially with phones and, you know, media and everything else that we're pulled into, and people, you know, I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by massively successful people, both in entertainment and in business. And that little voice in my head wants to tell me all the time that I'm not doing good enough because that guy's, you know, doing this and that guy's doing that. And that for me is the daily battle, is just, you know, and that's the shift I feel this time around, is just like taking time for me. I think it sounds, you know, I think we're raised, at least our generation, in a way of like, you know, me is selfish, you know, putting me first is selfish. And so I've always tried to do the opposite. Yet, you know, it's I hate being the cliche guy, but it's so true that, you know, you got to put your own mask on. It's that simple. And so if I start every day by just trying to, what do I want today? What do I want to do? You know, it doesn't mean I'm going to let my businesses fail or anything else, but you can only do what you can do, you know, and then the rest you got to kind of surrender to and accept. Acceptance is really what shifted me.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that you pinpoint acceptance too, because I think I would say 100% of the battle is accepting, right? 100% of the battle is saying like, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. And none of these things are going to change.
Yeah.
also in that same token, because I know a lot of people hear this, and all of us, it happens to all of us, right? Where we start doing really good, we're on track, we feel really good, something happens, and then we're like, oh, but you get the anxiety of like, you're not doing good, and you let go of the teaching and the learnings, and it's like, even accepting that, right? Yeah. And one of the things,
it's a rush, you know, like I got used to the rush. Like my healthy day, I can look at as a little bit boring, you know, nothing, but the addiction to that rush of that adrenaline of something's like, I'm stressing myself out to the point that like part of my brain, it feels like I've, you know, done a drug, or I'm doing like, so I've had to let that go, you know?
No, again, for me, I think in my personal life, the first thing that came was the realization that I actually don't control anything.
Yeah.
Right? That it was like, I could plan all I want. I can work 24 hours. I can take 20 million calls. I can get on the computer. I can do all these things, and it can still fail. Mm-hmm. And it was in that realization that I understood, okay, so if my job is not to do, because that's the universe's job, because I obviously don't control anything, what is my job? And that's where I, in my personal life, started to understand that it was to do nothing, to stand still, to learn to be still enough to listen, and then courageous enough to act. And I was sitting in the back of my Maybach, and I was looking at the window as I was dealing with an issue that had happened that day. And I said, man, it's so much nicer sitting in the back of the car and letting the universe and the creator drive. Mm-hmm. And it was the realization of those two moments for me that was like, okay, so how do I listen to my body when it's doing something out of fear, right? Because we stress because we feel that if we don't do that at that moment, and if this is not handled correctly, then everything's going to be bad and we're going to lose. And it's like accepting that, no, actually everything's okay.
Yeah.
Everything is happening what it needs to happen. And when you react, you're in the way of, you're getting the steering wheel and you're taking the car. But the thing is, I think all of us, and society continues to teach us this, is you got to drive it, right? Get the bull by the horns, the famous bull on Wall Street. Take this, do this by yourself. If you don't hustle, if you don't go do this, if you don't knock on the doors, if you don't do all this stuff. And the realization is, even in our business, how many talented people are out there that are not a superstar? Mm-hmm. And how many people just seems like things just flow to them, right? And I think is the realization that everything's a gift. Mm-hmm. That you actually haven't earned anything. That what you've done is you've been a good shepherd of what has been given to you, right? That's what discipline and hard work and doing those things, it's just being a good shepherd of something that the universe handed to you. But if you don't control anything, including your own life, you don't actually control that opportunity coming to you other than being willing and accepting to understand that it's just a gift. Mm-hmm. Those two realizations for me in my personal life and in my business life started to shift, but it started to shift in a very interesting way, because at first I thought, okay, well, this is an amazing formula for manifestation, right? Because I let go and I am clear on what I want and don't want. I am clear on understanding that I don't attract. I get out of the way of the universe, so I now see clearly, and I'm manifesting things. Mm-hmm. And now kind of the challenge number 2, which is what you were talking about, is how do I define what I actually want to do? Mm-hmm. How do I define what actually is coming to me from a place of wholeness internally, and not buying a car because you need to have the car because your neighbor just got the hottest car and you got to have the other one, or I have to do this because I have all this pressure of having to take care of people, having to supply for parents and for family and this and this. And my spiritual leader says something to me. He goes, Lex, no one needs saving. Mm-hmm. You're not Superman. You're getting in the way of them being able to understand their own process in life. That doesn't mean don't take care. That doesn't mean don't do something great. The question is, why? Mm-hmm. You could be a great giver. Question is, why are you giving? Mm-hmm. Are you giving because you're expecting something back? Are you giving because you need the feeling in order to do it?
Of course.
Or you give in because it's
But that's
truly
why
held
the
us.
best, you know, it's once again what people say and tell you, but that best feeling is when you do something without expectations, you know, when you do something for someone randomly on the street and you leave there and you're like, fuck, that feels good, because there was no expectation in return, you know. And the acceptance part, I think there's a, you know, once again, there's a reason why every book you read or every spiritual path or leader or anything will revert it back to acceptance, right? Because everything, if you accept everything as it is, everything's okay, you know. That's just, you know, perception. If I accept exactly where I am in this moment, it's okay. But for me, it's never been like, the understanding of that has never then suddenly changed me for life. It's a daily battle, you know.
Is there a lesson that you know that life has been trying to teach you that you feel like you keep running away from?
God, it's a big question. I mean, honestly, the biggest lesson for me that I'm constantly trying to now live by, even as I say that the kind of recent stuff that I went through myself, is exactly what we're talking about, is just that acceptance. You know, it's crazy to say, because my grandma, you know, passed 20 years ago now, who was an incredible woman, like a strong Irish woman, raised like, I don't know, 11 kids. She used to always say it's, you know, it's always okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. And now even I look at that quote as another way of saying acceptance. You know, even that quote itself, I never heard it that way, or never, you know, looked at it that way, and no one ever broke it down that way. But that's just another way of accepting. And I think that's the biggest lesson, is accepting, right? Because if I can accept, I can enjoy every moment. You know, if I can accept, it's not about the little independent movie I'm doing compared to the big Marvel movie. I'm accepting and I'm happy on that. You know, acceptance can change everything, you know? Even breakups, you know, I still do that. You know, I still be the guy that falls in love and I'm like, oh my God, she left me. She doesn't want me. What's wrong with me? Why am I? If I just accept, if I literally just say in that moment, she doesn't want me, and I accept that, I'm okay. The only pain is not accepting. Literally, you say it out loud and it's so simple, you know? Even my dog just left me. You know? Even my dog doesn't want me.
I'm sleeping on the floor.
Just listen to our conversation. Just left me with a bunch of hair.
You know, it's interesting because in my inner work, I started to understand that that's the true identity and purpose of this place, right? Is that our soul has chosen this specific life to learn lessons. And we're in school. Just like when you're in school, you don't pass a grade, you got to do it again, right? But it did two things for me in understanding that. One was that I started to understand that I should feel no pity for the things that I've gone through, because it was my soul specifically chose these things. But I started to also learn something as a father in how to teach my daughter. And it was that we have been taught to run away from hard times. We have been taught to run away from things that feel uncomfortable. We have been taught that the right thing to do as a friend or as a parent or as a son is to tell the other person, hey, it's okay, you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. Hey, it's okay, this too shall pass. Hey, it's okay, you know, this is momentarily. And the truth is that in the fire is the lesson. In the uncomfortable of the moment is the lesson. Because if you don't control anything, as we said before, when you look at my life and your life, 1,000,001 things had to happen perfectly for you and I to be sitting here together having this conversation.
Of course.
So any uncomfortable moment that we feel as friends is there to be as a mirror. The blessing is in the fire. The difference is that we've associated pain with suffering. Pain is necessary to grow.
Of course.
You go to the gym every day. You hit you got to hit it. You got to work hard to have a success. You got to do all these things. Suffering is mental. And for me, the moment I understood the difference between those two things, the difference that you love cold plunges and you can get in there and feel nothing. I can get in there and go into.
By the way, I hate it too.
Okay, exactly.
I go through phases. Once again, it's chapters. I'll be like the ice bath guy, and now I'm like, you ain't getting me in there,
But that's the thing. It's like it's the mental state, is the perception of the moment that is creating the suffering, right? But in the understanding that sitting in that fire is the lesson, I started to look at the things that make me uncomfortable. I started to look at the things that in relationships, I'll give you.
But I want to, there's something there that comes to my mind that I want to push, I want to push back.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you, right? The pain, the pain is where we learn. The lessons what if sometimes in life, there's no lesson to be learned? Yeah. That's what I found for me, is like, I'm always trying to learn from the pain, or learn, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? What about, there's nothing to learn or nothing to grow? What about in that moment, if you're just like, it is what it is?
But that's the lesson.
Yeah.
The lesson is every situation has a purpose.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not the hunt of the lesson every time, right?
Right.
Like, you won't have it clear every time. Is the acceptance of saying, okay, this has happened to me with purpose.
Right.
Because nothing is just random.
Right.
It has happened 100%. To me with purpose. So I will accept what that is. Even if that moment of acceptance is, I feel some pain right now.
Right.
I'm a little sad.
And if you really, this is I guess another thing that I've definitely learned recently that took so long to learn was, it's not just accepting. You have to accept it on such a deeper level. Because I thought a million times I've accepted, right? Like, I've accepted a breakup. I've accepted that I didn't get that job. And then years later, it's still hitting me.
It's not a thought, it's a feeling.
It's a feeling, exactly. You have to have the acceptance on such a deep level that you move forward.
Yeah. And I believe that same thing happens in manifestation. Like, I believe that there is this power when you not only think about, oh, I want to get this, or I want to have a family, but you generally put yourself in that place where you feel what that feels like, where you feel like what holding the woman that you're going to love, it feels like, what feeling having a little boy or a little girl walking around, that feeling of that emotion makes it so real to you. Because the thing is, the brain doesn't know the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that I've learned the most, which is we are telling ourselves and other people's stories all day long, right? Everything that we say, even a compliment is a story. But we're with ourselves more than we are with everybody else. What stories are we telling ourselves? And how are those stories impacting our reality? Because our brain believes it.
Yeah.
Our brain believes if you say, hey, I have a headache, or I have this stomach pain, your brain is registering a signal that you are digesting as pain. I've had a lot of stomach problems in my life. And when I went to the doctor, I went to like this mega super specialist, the guy that was the goat of the goats. And he said, here's the thing, Lex, your stomach has all the same sensors that your brain has. Your brain is sending a sensor down that the stomach needs to react. So the stomach goes into full reaction.
Of course.
And then it's sending that sensor right back to your brain to say, that feeling is called pain.
Yeah.
And then you feel it as pain. So now you register that same feeling in everything else. And he said, we found that people who have this neural link going on between their body and their brain are not strong to pain. You barely pinch him and there's something. And so the moment we stop that signal, all of a sudden you see the person completely heal from whatever they're dealing with, because the brain is recognizing there's nothing wrong, tells the body there's nothing wrong. The body realigns itself and gets itself into a place where it can heal itself. And so it tells you the power of our brain. It tells you the power of our thoughts. It tells you the power of the stories we tell ourselves. And for me, that's been, I want to say, the chapter of my life I'm dealing with, right? It's like, how do I watch what I'm telling myself? And how do I make the difference between, oh, this is a story or this is reality?
Yeah.
Or how do I identify fear as something that is present, but I'm not necessarily feeling it? And how do I create that relationship? Because it's a hard thought to think like, okay, fear is here, but I'm not feeling it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Of course.
When you're digesting it in your everyday.
And I think it's the same that we mentioned with at least for me, was like the rush that I was used to, you know, the rush of getting on a plane every week, flying to somewhere, doing something, doing this, doing that. That rush of, you know, not being enough kind of kept me getting more, you know? So it's like, that becomes normal as well. And it's about understanding, you know, it goes back to just what you want, you know, what you truly want, not on a comparing yourself to others level, not on a, what the world tells us we should be doing or living, what we actually want in our hearts, what that little boy truly wants, you know, like taking it back as far as you can take it back, what that little kid actually wanted in that moment. And I got into I won't say a debate, but like a healthy conversation with a friend of mine the other day, because we were talking about this, and I was talking about the acceptance part and how like you just accept the present moment and maybe there's nothing left to fix. And then he took that as like, yeah, but then why would you get up and work? And I'm like, you're missing the point. Just accepting doesn't mean that you're going to accept your surroundings if you're broke and you can't pay your rent. You don't accept that. If you want more, if you truly sit there and in that moment you want more, then you want more, then go for more. Don't accept that. But at the end of the day, if you've really done the best you can do and you know that, then accept that. It's just connecting with yourself more, connecting with your higher self, your God, whatever you believe in. And I think that's the part. And it doesn't mean that, you know, there's nothing left to fix, meaning that you're going to make mistakes or upset people or be rude and never clean up your side of the street. I truly believe that, you know, keeping your side of the street is massively clean, and it's really not about other people. It's about yourself, you know, letting your own mind be free of any resentments, you know, and that's the biggest thing as well. And that's why I think it really is a daily battle, because in today's world, you can't have that aha moment and then go sit on a mountaintop and never see anyone again. You're going to be confronted with different things every day. And you're going to, for me, I slip up, right? That's it. I don't know why, but I feel like I slip up more than others. And I've accepted that. And I'll be like, why the fuck did I just scream at that guy in the car and want to kill him when I've just left the meditation Zoom, you know, like, but you can clean that up. You know, like you clean it up and you keep your side of the street clean, and then tomorrow's a new day, you know?
We're so used to saying little things like, I think I mess up more than everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And it's like these little things that we have said. Like, even I was on a trip with my dad, we went to Europe around, and he was so used to just saying, we do what we can with what we have, and that's just what it is. And like as we were talking, I said, Dad, like, you're driving in a Porsche GTS all over Europe. Like, how much power your word has. And he caught himself, he's like, wow, I have all these things that we learn, these little sayings, these little things that our mind believes that trick us into saying these things. And we think they're just jokes, but they're not jokes.
Yeah.
Like, they really are what your brain is registering as reality.
But for me, I'm seeing
know?
that. When I say that, I'm genuinely seeing it from a place of, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, there are some people that have an aha moment and they're on this cloud, you know. I've been around them, and it's amazing to witness.
Yeah,
it hasn't happened for me yet, and that's okay.
That's okay.
And maybe one day it will, and I'll come back on the podcast. You'll see me in a white cloak, and I'll be floating just above this chair.
But you know, I think that's the funny thing. I generally, and I'm so glad you brought this. Like, I generally think that the acceptance is just everything. It's the understanding that it's
the easiest way to get through anything.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way, the simplest and easiest way.
Yeah.
And you know, I've done people make jokes about it. Like, literally, I will go on I'll try every course. I'll try every IV. I'll try, you know, I was doing NAD like 10 years ago. I'd fly up to San Francisco. I'd try ketamine IVs. I've done every single thing to try and make me feel different. And I would say the most powerful thing beyond any drug and any course and anything, any outside thing that we try and fill ourselves with, the most powerful thing is just acceptance. Yeah. In that moment is accepting, and you get a feeling of relief that no drug, no drink, no hot Victoria's Secret model, no one is going to give you. It's just that moment of acceptance, and this is where I am. And you suddenly, it's like you get high. You can literally be like, and I've been trying it so much the last week. I can tell you, it's been crazy to just be like, oh my God, it's that simple. It's really that simple. And the greatest thing is, at any point in your day, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, If you're in a car, maybe don't close your eyes, but like pull over. You can just have that moment of like, it is what it is. You know, I'm accepting this. And truly, like you said, not just saying it, feeling it and accepting it and taking it long enough, whether it's 10 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, to sit in that moment and accept whatever is going on in your life right now. And that to me is better than, you know, anything else. At least for me, it's what works, or is what is working.
Yeah. What would you say you're afraid of?
I'm not afraid of dying, but I would like to live because I'm enjoying my life.
That's beautiful.
And that's not something that I can genuinely. I don't think I could sit here and genuinely say from a place of truth that I love my life and I would like to continue living for probably 99% of my life. It took a long, long time to get to a place where I can sit with a friend and say that I actually like my life and mean it, you know? Because I painted that picture for a long time. I didn't feel it, you know? So that feels kind of good. But there's a bit of fear there because I don't want it to end now because I feel like I'm just getting going, you know? I genuinely don't want it to end. So yeah, but once again, I can't control that, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I'm not really scared of anything, which is weird because that is why I guess I feel a little bit lately like my life's, I don't feel it's boring, but it's definitely different because I'm not in fear. The fear was adrenaline, right? Fear is a rush. That's why people jump out of planes, you know? Nothing scares me now. Genuinely nothing.
If there's like, you know, as you've transitioned into this place of acceptance, is there a mantra or something you tell yourself that the audience listening says, man, I want that feeling Oliver just described? What kind of words do you tell yourself that allow you to, in these moments of, you know, getting a call about work didn't go right, or getting a call of a job maybe not going, or things happen, or getting a ticket like you described before, you know, that would piss anybody off. Like in that moment, is there a mantra that you're using for yourself of just like,
God, I hate to repeat it, but it's just the acceptance, right? In that moment, I was meant to get a ticket. Can I do anything about it? No. I mean, how many times have we tried to talk around a policeman? Doesn't work. You know what I mean? Yeah, acceptance, really. And there's little things that definitely help me in life. There's a dear friend of mine, and she's really done so many incredible things for me in the way of like tools. One thing is like, you know, at the end of the day, which I don't do it perfectly, but writing down things that I did that were positive that I wouldn't have normally done. And I don't mean deliberate things like going to the gym. I just mean in those moments like, oh, I actually I changed my mind and went to that place and it ended up being great. And I made the effort and I showed up for someone and that gave me a good feeling. Like little things of just reminding ourselves of good things that we do. Because look, for whatever reason, it's easier, at least for me, the negative part of my mind has always been more amplified, right? I grew up that way. For whatever reason, it's easier to beat myself up than be nice to me. And that's what I'm shifting now, you know? And I think because we're told, right? Like loving yourself is ego or whatever. It's not, you know, being kind to yourself is the healthiest thing you can do. And I don't think we do enough of that as human beings. I think we need to tell ourselves, remind ourselves of the good things that we've done in a day, remind ourselves of the positive things in a day, as opposed to just looking at the negatives.
I agree. And I think self-care, like you said, it's been a massive key for me over this past 8 months. Cause like you, so many people that I speak to are like, man, but you've done so many amazing things and you're so great. And all these people are looking up to you and all this stuff. And I was like, but the internal battle that we go through, all of us, right? Every human, it doesn't matter how high or how low you are, we all go through, keeps you in this rush of trying to hide that pain, right? Trying to hide that feeling of not feeling worth it. And it wasn't until 8 months ago that I really started taking some time to go back and talk to little Lex, you know, and realize like trying to really identify when was the first time I felt something, right? When was the first time that I felt like I wasn't good enough? And I identified this moment in my life where I was living away from home. You know, I had moved to the U.S. My father stayed in Colombia, and I went back to Colombia for a wedding of my sister, and I was spending time with him. And like in the first, I don't know, 15 minutes, he told me he had gotten married again, and I was like, I remember saying it in the car like if it was yesterday. So does that, do you want me to call her mom? Do you, like, not knowing how to react to this notion of like, what is happening to my family? And then like that afternoon going to go and play soccer with my friends and being like, man, his wife got really fat. And they're like, oh, wait, you don't know? Like, no, what? She's pregnant. And I remember like it was yesterday, just sitting in the car screaming, I hate you. Like I was in so much pain because I felt like I had been replaced. I felt like I wasn't good enough. And for me, even though I love my mother, my father's approval, I would say even until recently, was a huge thing. Mm-hmm. You know, I found myself like looking for his approval on things or looking for him to be proud of me. And he's a great man. None of these things were done out of hurt and pain, but it was also the circumstance and the situations. I don't think I'd be the man I am today if he wouldn't have let me come to the US and other things. But it took me realizing that was the starting point to then having to like really feel, like we said, think and then feel myself in that place, in that car. And like sitting next to young Lex, blonde, curly hair, and saying, hey, it's okay. You're loved, you're okay. You're going to make it through. He loves you. He's not replacing you. He's just like you, trying to do the best that he can with the knowledge and the trauma and the lessons and the fears that he has. And it was like that. And I started to realize that our inner child just needs us to talk, but we need to feel that, you know? We need to go back into that and put it in. And to me, that's been so transformative, even in my relationship, because I historically was a playboy, you know? I was out there doing my thing, thinking I was hot shit or happy. But I really genuinely thought that like every time I would fall in love, because I would still fall in love. I was like a hopeless romantic that was trying to play the playboy role, right? So I would fall in love, I'd get the girl, I'd be like knight in shining armor first 3 months, like, my God, he's the best ever, you know? And then as soon as it started getting serious, I would pull away. And then pulling away, it was mostly always by cheating and then going into the next person. It was never like, okay, goodbye, I'm not with you, I'm moving on, but I'm single again. No, it was like moving into someone else. And then I was single, but kind of still with this person and almost with this person. And I started to create these like vicious triangles throughout my life that caused me so much stress, so much pain, and so much craziness. And I just could never understand. I'm like, how do I keep doing this? How do I keep like missing out on a great woman or just, you know, picking the wrong people or, you know, letting myself be carried by sex? And then the universe said, oh, okay, it's about that time. You've been asking me for a family. You've been asking me to have this dream of you, because I kept on envisioning, like all over COVID, like during that whole time, I meditated every single day. And I can paint the picture. It was literally like a house with a pool, me walking, and like my daughter, at the time I didn't have kids, and my daughter in the pool, and this woman who I couldn't identify holding another baby boy. And I remember feeling this sense of wholeness in my spirit. And I was like, this is so far from my reality. This is never going to happen for me, bro. It's like I'm, 38 years old. Like I have this like fame of being a player. Nobody's going to want this. Like, and I'm afraid. So I never finish my business inside a woman. Kind of COVID ends. I come out. I had this reality show on Netflix. All of a sudden, I'm like, not only industry famous, but outward famous. And I start taking advantage of this. I meet this girl. We like each other. A month into knowing each other, hey, I'm pregnant. Huh? I was in a club in Spain, bro.
Wow.
And I was like, and I was with my father. Look how the world is. I was with my father because we decided to do these yearly trips that we do. We had just done Monaco and we went to Madrid. And I remember going back to the hotel, the Four Seasons, and knocking on his door. And I said, hey, I need to talk to you. I think I'm going to be a father. And him saying, it's 3 a.m. We will talk about it in the morning, and close the door. And I remember sitting in my bed like, there's no way. But weirdly enough, and I'd never actually said this to anybody, there was this sense of peace. Like, I didn't feel scared. Then I get home. Bro, I've never actually shared this, but I think it'll lead me to my last question too. I get home and I speak to the girl and I tell her, hey, like, what do you want to do? My mother taught me to be a gentleman no matter what. But in the back of my head, I was also like, oh, she's lying. How, Sway? 20-something years doing this thing, all the things I've done and never, not even a little scare, not even like a worry, not even a call, not even a text message from any girl. I hadn't even thought I'd stop. I was like, I'm not fertile. Like, no way. Because I've never had a scared. And dealing with the dynamic of like, I'm afraid. Is this really mine? At the same time, feeling this level of peace that I can't describe. Like, there was something inside of me that was like, this is it. This is your moment. And I've never said this. The girl decides we decide to have the baby. The baby comes out. Obviously, imagine getting to know a person while they're pregnant that you haven't really, really known, while she's finding out things about you, you're finding out things about her. Chaos erupts, like volcanic level chaos in my life for that year of the pregnancy and the year after, where I just couldn't function. I couldn't think. I was surprised that I could even do the things that I got to do during those years, because my life wasn't chaotic. And it wasn't until Christmas of my daughter's first Christmas that I experienced having to give her back to the mom, because we split the Christmas, that I broke down. And I said, why, if I know deep inside my heart that there's something here, this was meant for me, why am I fighting it so wildly? Why am I judging? Why am I putting all my insecurities? Why am I doing this? I gotta leave. And I went to Marrakesh for New Year's. And I sat in Marrakesh at this party. I met these 2 girls and they were having troubles with their boyfriend. One left, and I was like, what is life? And I asked the driver that was taking us around, I said, why is your houses outside look like crap? Like, it's just like a door and some like mud. But inside you guys have this beautiful like landscaping and everything. I said, because we believe the beauty is on the inside. And I went to sleep that New Year's just thinking the beauty is on the inside. Your lessons on the inside. And I got back to Miami and I called her and I said, hey, listen, we've gone through a lot, but I believe whatever life has to teach me is inside of you. And I believe that I've been pouring my insecurities, my fear on you, but I believe you're my blessing. So I would like to start. Try not to cry.
Cry, bro. Why are you trying not to?
No. I believe that you was meant for me. And we've gone over the past year and 6 months into a full life transition. 2 people who couldn't have been more polar opposites, more destructive, more insecure, more fearful, into a couple that just like, I looked at my life. I proposed, I don't know, 4 days ago. And I was looking at the video and I was like, wow, this too can happen, you know? And in that feeling and in that emotion and in everything else that we're talking, it was the first time, I think, in my life, and I grew up in a very religious home, where I felt something I learned, I put into practice, and it changed my life. And it was in that devotion that I said, okay, this is all I actually want to do. And that leads me to say, how do you look at love? How do you look at the stage of being in a relationship? Because I did hear you talk about in the other podcast that you did about, feeling like you're 42 and maybe not have a wife. And
now I'm 43 and I'm on another podcast and we're saying the same. Look, I genuinely, I think until I got to this point, or until I'm where I am now, I don't know any healthy relationship I would have been in, because I was always chasing, and the chase, what you just said, right? The accepting ends the chase. The acceptance ends the chase for whatever you're in, business. And that doesn't mean it ends the success. It ends that feeling of the chase. So for me, like, yeah, I'm trying to look, bro, exactly what you just said. Trust me, when you were talking about it, my mind was hearing it and I was feeling it. And I was like, half the battle is that in relationships too, right? You could have the most amazing person right there with you that you're meant to be with. But if you haven't found a place of accepting where you are now, you're just going to continue chasing. And the same as in a car, there's always going to be a better car, bro. There's always, or at least your mind is going to tell you there's always going to be a better car. There's always going to be a bigger house. There's always going to be a bigger movie. There's always going to be a better selling record. Whatever it is, that is the chase. So I think for me, I've I don't regret any of it, but there's definitely some great relationships that I think if I was in the mindset now, it would have been totally different. So now I just want to go into love in an authentic way and feel in that moment what it is. I don't think I could ever have a real relationship because you're not in the moment. So you don't really know what's actually going on, But yeah, of course, I don't know if you were asking that, but of course I want to, love is great, right? Look at you're talking about it, family, love, family. It's not like, but at the same time, I can genuinely also say that I wake up in the morning and I'm happy with me,
I think that's the first step.
Yeah, of course. And it takes a long time. And once again, don't get me wrong, that was today. Tomorrow I might wake up and be like, the fuck? Where's my hair gone? What's going on? But if I pull it back, it's okay. So of course it's a daily thing. None of us know what tomorrow is anyway.
Yeah.
So today is all I've got. I'll be the best version of myself I can be today. And that might not be perfect either. I might still get pissed at the cop who gave me a ticket. I might still want to, whatever, but I'm doing the best I can. And from a place of authenticity, I
love that. I always end the podcast by doing an exercise, right? As we've talked about throughout the past hour, words have power, right? And I believe that we, as nice as we are to other people, we're a lot tougher on ourselves. So if there's a word or a phrase that you can tell yourself right now that will change how your mind perceives the rest of this week, the rest of this year, or just how you're feeling today, what would that word and phrase be? And you can share with us, but live it, feel it to yourself.
a lot went through my head, right? Like a lot of things that I've tried to tell myself, like look in the mirror and tell myself I'm enough. But I think what really hits me is just like, I'm here now.
I love that.
You know? So.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oliver, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Good to see you.
First of many. And thank you for sharing your story, for sharing this emotional moment of authenticity with each other, So I'm highly blessed to have you and call you a friend. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you guys for tuning in to You Versus You. Please subscribe, like, and share as we build this community and we help each other to live the life of our dreams.